not just a good guy, a great guy. And by all accounts, Jason Kelce's a great guy too, and he's told his teammates he plans to retire. And Mike, this is what we are expecting to be the first of potentially major changes for this Eagles team in this offseason. Should we be expecting major changes for this Eagles team this offseason?
We're definitely, and we'll start with Kelce. I mean, he told his teammates post-game, I believe it was supposed to stay inside that locker room. It made its way out, and we've double and triple confirmed that he definitely told these guys he intends to retire. Now, he hasn't made the statement, his own statement, I should say, so he could always change his mind and maybe try for one more year. This has kind of been a dance with Kelce the last couple of years. Will he or won't he return? But I think this year, given everything he did outside of football and started to gear his life toward his post-playing career, and you saw that scene, I'm pretty sure he told Jeff Stoutland, the offensive line coach, the longtime Eagles offensive line coach, in that moment that we saw at the end of the game, you could tell from Stoutland's reaction, not that anybody should be blindsided with it, but I believe that that's when he started to tell people about it, and you saw the tears coming down his face. So yes, Jason Kelce. Fletcher Cox, he was close to not being an Eagle last offseason as a free agent, almost wound up with the New York Jets. I think it wouldn't be a shock to anybody, given that the Eagles have drafted defensive tackles in the first round the last couple of years, that potentially he could move on. Now, Brandon Graham, the defensive end, says he wants to come back for one more year. Pro Football Focus had him as the highest graded Eagle, one of the highest graded players, period, in this wild card game against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. So he's still got it and would like to have that farewell tour potentially with Philly. So perhaps that will be the case. Lane Johnson, another one of the core four that we call them with the Eagles that have been together, is under contract, still playing at a high level. I'd expect him to still be there. But now take it to the coaching staff. Jay, I really think that in the end, Nick Sirianni is going to be fine. I'm going to put an asterisk next to that one because we thought Doug Peterson was fine a couple of years ago and then just refused to make some changes on the coaching staff. And Jeffrey Lurie said, all right, cool, moving on here. I believe Lurie is going to demand some changes on that coaching staff. We already know they have to do a defensive coordinator search, given that they moved on from Sean Desai in the middle of the season. So, yeah, I suspect significant changes on the coaching staff. It's going to be a different-looking roster, particularly with Kelce. We already know he is going to be gone. So it does feel like a pivotal point for the Eagles, and Nick Sirianni's got to try to find a way, if he does retain this job, to rally this team together and get moving back toward the team that we saw to start this season and went to the Super Bowl last year.
Speaking of coaches, let's talk about Mike Tomlin here, Mike. He's told his teammates he plans on finishing out his contract with the Steelers. He's got 1 year left on his deal. This franchise, as you know, Mike, basically never changes head coaches. It's actually incredible. Almost 2 decades for Tomlin with the Steelers now. But is confidence in Tomlin starting to wane a little bit? No playoff wins for Pittsburgh since 2016.
Jay, before I reported what he told to the team in that team meeting on Tuesday, I checked with some other folks and said, okay, he plans to come back, but would the team potentially nudge him out? I got a 3-letter text back. NFY. That's what I got back from a Steelers source, and you could probably figure out what those words mean. I'll just say no. We'll go with the first one. No, the Steelers will not push him out. So I expect Mike Tomlin to be back coaching the Steelers in 2024. Now, any coach and any organization usually doesn't like to go into the final year of a coach's contract because that sends the wrong signal to the locker room and prospective free agents and any other coaches you want to come work with him. So potentially you could get a little bit of an extension here, and I say little, maybe just a little pad on the back end until Mike Tomlin and his team figure out the future of this organization and the future of the team right now, because he's going to have to make a tough decision at the quarterback spot. I mean, Kenny Pickett was healthy enough to play. They went with Mason Rudolph, so did they have to go out and make a different move or maybe try to get Pickett back into the fold as the franchise quarterback? They fired Matt Canada, the offensive coordinator, midway through the season. I thought Mike Sullivan did a nice job with what he was given. It wasn't his offense calling the plays, but they're going to have to do an offensive coordinator search there. Now, T.J. Watt came out and said there's no other coach I'd rather play for than Mike Tomlin, so I do think he still has a lot of believers in that locker room. And to get to 10-7, given where they were, given that they rolled through 3 quarterbacks this year and all the injuries they had, I do believe it was still a really good coaching job by Mike Tomlin. But that middling 9-8, 10-7 record, got to get back up to being a Super Bowl contender. They haven't been for quite some time.
All right, let's talk about the Bill Belichick situation. He's starting to shop around, Mike. He's shopping around. He had the interview with the Falcons on Monday. By the way, Jim Harbaugh apparently also interviewed with the Falcons. That was on Tuesday. That's wild. So the Falcons really being aggressive here in their coaching search. But what kind of effect, Mike, my question for you, what kind of effect is Belichick's searching around here having on the current head coaching situation around the entire league?
It's not like where you've got a really hot candidate one year, like a younger guy, an offensive guy, and Ben Johnson would probably be the best example of that this year, where it's like, we got to see where that domino falls first, and then the other ones can fall behind it. I'm not really getting that sense. It's going to have to be the right situation for Bill Belichick, and I think in a sense Atlanta could be, because Arthur Blank is to the point now where he wants to win a Super Bowl. So let this guy come in and do what he needs to do. He's not going to be there for that long, you wouldn't think, at this stage of his career, and Blank wants to win now, so he might get more leeway there than he would get, let's say, with the Chargers, which I gather was also an intriguing possibility for him. And then there's some other teams that are starting to build from the ground up. They think for the long haul. The Washington Commanders are one of those where I don't sense that there's an interest in Bill Belichick. And I know that folks wanted to tie him to the Eagles. Even if they did move on from Nick Sirianni, that's not a fit there as well. So I don't think it's holding up anything. It could potentially determine some of these dominoes. Let's say Jim Harbaugh says, yeah, I really hit it off with the Falcons, but Arthur Blank remembers that Super Bowl from a couple of years ago, has got a ton of respect for Bill Belichick, and Belichick says, yeah, that's the situation that I like, that is going to fit. That could maybe affect what happens with Harbaugh and a couple other folks, but it's not a massive domino. It's just, where is Belichick going to land? It's going to be a great story. It's going to be an intriguing story. There's still the potential he could pass this cycle, take a year off, but I think he really wants to dive back into it. Doesn't feel like he needs a break. So perhaps he'll be on that Falcons sideline, the opposing sideline from the team that, 28-3. Should I not bring that up yet? I think maybe Falcons fans will feel good about us bringing it up when they finally have Bill Belichick as their head coach. We'll see if it happens.
But what about Jerry Jones, Mike? What about Mike McCarthy? Where are we with that? I mean, as the time goes on longer and longer here that nothing happens, is that good news for McCarthy?
Not necessarily, because with Jason Garrett, it kind of happened that way, where Garrett, I'm told, thought he was safe, and then he wasn't. Jerry Jones just going through a process, making sure he is thorough. I know everybody likes to think of him as the Texas gunslinger and, doing what he wants and firing off quickly. He is a very calculated man. He's a very intelligent man. He's done certainly well with many of his businesses, including the Dallas Cowboys, and he's learned to go through a process when it comes to his business. So, yeah, potentially. I just don't think that Bill Belichick, and a lot of people around the league, Jay, I'll say this, don't feel like that's a good fit for Bill Belichick. With an owner like that looking over his shoulder, who's on the radio every week, whereas Robert Kraft preferred to hang in the shadows, let Bill Belichick do what he needed to do. He's not going to have that type of situation in Dallas. Me personally, I don't think it's a great fit, and I got a lot of company around the league on that one.
You got a lot of company in this studio in terms of people who respect the heck out of you. We're down to the final 8 in the NFL, Mike, but to you, no, to us, you are number 1.
NFY. I'm not number 1. NFY. Got that yet?
Is it NFY or NFW?
NFW. Did I screw that up?
That's why we have our popular You Blew It segment, Mike. It's the best.
I blew it. I blew it. NFW. I blew it.
NFW, everybody.